for our target market and their purposes, I know that having spoken to a number of them over the years, because you know I'm a psychologist, so obviously I spend quite a lot of my time talking about health, mental health, and so forth. There is this ignorance around what cannabis oil really is. And I think because of this legal, illegal kind of debate, there is this sense of perhaps mistrust or uncertainty around it. Could you please, I know that you've also produced an oil yourself, so could you explain a little bit more about what you feel is safe to give and where to get it from?
Yeah. So obviously the oil that I've now brought out to market is purely CBD. I couldn't bring anything with THC. I couldn't bring out the oil that I gave my son because that's completely illegal. It was a very high THC actually is what I gave him. The issue that happens around cannabis oils, I mean, cannabis oil is literally just you take the cannabis plant and you extract the oil, and there's a number of ways you can do that. You can do the alcohol extraction, you can do it with CO2, you can steep the plant in a carrier oil. There's so many different ways that you can extrapolate those cannabinoids, which is effectively what we're after on the plant. And whatever plant you start with is really what oil you're going to be left with. So if you've got a high THC plant, you're really only going to be left with a high THC oil. And so the issue really out there is that most of the plants on the street, street weed, is very, very high in THC, and it doesn't have the appropriate amount of CBD with it. And that's where some of the psychological issues can come from. Right. So it's very important. And when I deal with people, I do help them access the illegal oils. I help them access it. And I always make sure that they have the appropriate amount of CBD alongside, because that's where the illegal side of things, that's where they go wrong. I see so many people out there, oh, high THC, or just take a gram of this a day and it'll cure your cancer. And it's so wrong. It's a very old, uneducated way. Now, you have to have the appropriate amount of CBD alongside, and mainly because CBD is actually the antidote to the psychoactive effects of the THC. So you can have a gram of THC oil, but if you have a gram of CBD oil next to it, you're really not going to actually get that many psychoactive effects, because the CBD is the dampener. Now, years and years ago, the weed that people would have grown would have been actually quite a balance of THC and CBD. It would have been the land races, as nature intended, are very balanced. They have very similar ratios of THC to CBD and all the other cannabinoids. It's humans, it's man that has got hold of these plants, GMO'd them to produce messed with them. Now we have over 5,000 different strains of cannabis, all doing something very different, but most of them are very, very high in THC, because that's what people wanted. They wanted to get high. They didn't want to have to smoke an ounce to, because this, as I say, the CBD doesn't get you high. So the CBD brings that highness down. So having a very good balance of THC and CBD, you really are going to limit those psychoactive effects, but it doesn't negate away from the properties of the THC, which are, THC is one of the most important cannabinoids in the plant. It's the one that's responsible for apoptosis, which is a cell suicide, so cancer cell death. It's the one that's very responsible for that. It's also responsible for the pain relief. It's a very good anesthetic. And so, we have to try and not take that cannabinoid away, because it's so very, very important. But of course, it's the illegal component. So, when people come to me, I do say to them, look, if you can get away with CBD only, let's try CBD first. If they've got cancer, THC straight off the bat, I have to tell them that. But if they've got other things like pain from inflammation, fibromyalgia, or depression, anxiety, things like that, if it's non-life threatening, I will always say CBD first. Don't break the law unless you have to. Yeah, don't break the law unless you have to, because you don't want to add that stress to your life. You don't need to. But if it's cancer, we have to talk about THC immediately. And so the oil that I brought out is CBD only, because I have seen CBD on its own do some incredible things as well. Right. Again, with palliative care, it's very, very good with pain associated with inflammation. So say fibromyalgia, anxiety, it's one of the most amazing things for anxiety. It really does. I've suffered with anxiety. I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD, as you can probably imagine. I had a nervous breakdown in October 2014, because as soon as Darren got well and well enough, that's when everything came crashing down on me. That's when I now
just couldn't hold it together anymore. No, I get it completely.
That's it. And
so,
that's when it
Callie, I mean, thank you so much for telling us about your own oil. I'm really fascinated with that. You've got a couple of different levels. Can you just tell me, if somebody, say, felt that they'd got a problem with insomnia, or as you say, with anxiety, or they were struggling really with a certain amount of pain, and I'm talking about things like inflammation of the joints rather than a chronic post-operative kind of painkiller, which I can appreciate other people would be a bit nervous to take. But could you give me a sense of what do you feel is an okay dose? Because I know that you've got these two different dosages. How do you take this?
So I've brought out a couple of different strengths, and I've got a 1,000 milligram and a 3,000 milligram. And the 1,000 milligram has 4 milligrams of active CBD per drop. And this was very important to me, so that everybody knows exactly what they're taking. I've seen so many oils on the market over the years where it's like, I don't know how much I need to take. How much is it per drop? What am I doing? Half a pipette, you know. I wanted to bring out a very, very strong oil so that people could literally take a drop at a time. I wanted it to last people, you know. I'm not out here to make a lot of money from people by selling them really weakened oils. I'm not into that, you know. It's very important to me that people get what they need. Proper oil, yeah. So mine's one of the strongest on the market from what I've seen, and the most cost effective as well. I'm very proud to be able to say that. So I'm not about ripping people off. You know, I've been there. I know what it's like. So I suggested, and I also did bring out 3 different types as well. I brought out a natural, which is just the normal CBD, and that's the base CBD along all my 3 products. And then I have 2 different ones, and I've gone a bit different than other people have on the market. I've added in terpenes from cannabis plants. Now, terpenes are what give it the smell, but there's loads and loads of different terpene profiles as well, and they actually have their own medicinal benefits too. So because I can't give you a whole plant, not allowed to give you THC, I figured, well, if I can just take the terpenes from some cannabis strains that also have benefits, we can give you a whole plant feeling without actually having the whole plant. So I took the Purple Punch, and the Purple Punch strain is very, very good for insomnia. It's very good for sleep and rest and relaxation. So I've got a Purple Punch strain, terpene infused oil, which the feedback already has been amazing. It's helping people with menopausal flushes during the night. It's the people are getting sleep that they haven't had in years. It just makes my heart sing every time I get one of these amazing you know, bits of feedback, because it's been my entire mission, you know, ever since this with Darren. All I've ever wanted to do is help people
and absolutely show people, and bring relief. I understand.
Yeah, it's to end the suffering. It's all I've ever wanted to do is end suffering. And you know, that's why I gave it to Darren in the first place, was to end his suffering. It wasn't to cure him in any way. And then I also brought out a lemon haze, and lemon haze actually has a deeper story. So kind of going back a little bit to Darren's story, is that when he didn't die, he became very depressed, and he actually tried to kill himself. He hated the fact that I'd saved his life. He found it very difficult to get his head around. And his way of killing himself was starvation. He decided he just wasn't going to eat. He was going to go on hunger strike. And so for the following 6 months, he got himself down to 24 kilos at 14 years old. That's about 4.5 stone. It's nothing. I'd never seen anything like it other than in documentaries about Auschwitz. It was horrendous. And they were wanting to, the hospital wanted to section him, sedate him, and force feed him. And I said to the hospital, can we please get him some mental health care? And they said he didn't qualify. And after everything, he didn't qualify. So they said, there's nothing we can do other than physiologically, you know, intervene here. So I said to them, look, we'd actually been offered a holiday in Spain, and somebody had said to us, look, you can borrow our villa, take him over to Spain if you want. And I pleaded with the hospital. I said, look, please just let me take him to Spain, and if he's the same when I come back, I will sign him over to you. You know, I don't see I have much choice. They agreed. We went over to Spain, and we met somebody over there who actually deals with the cannabis oil, which is the actual oil, the thick stuff that everybody talks about, because I'd actually only made him a tincture, but this was the concentrate oil. And I had no qualms in giving him this. And the guy who we got it from said, I think it might help his appetite. And it didn't even occur to me, actually, you know, the munchies. So I gave him this tiny bit of oil, and I'd given it to him in the morning. And again, about half an hour later, I was making some lunch, and I shouted down, I said, I'm making lunch. Does anybody want anything? And I was expecting the usual grunts of no that I'd heard for the previous 6 months. And Darren shouted out, yeah, make me loads, I'm starving. And Oh my word, that was it. And he ate for 12 hours that day and 12 hours the next day. And then he just kept eating. He did not stop eating. And his mental health just improved. And we went back home after 2 weeks in Spain, and the hospital took me to one side and said, oh my God, like he doesn't want to die anymore. And I said, I know. She said, his mental health has improved by 300%. I said, I know. And she said, he's put on 4 kilos. And I said, I know. She said, the holiday did him the world of good. I said, yes, it was the holiday. But ever since that day in June 2014, he's been on cannabis oil every single day since that day. And it was lemon haze. It was the strain lemon haze. And it was lemon haze that I actually grew him as well, because I had to make his own oil for him now. I couldn't get it. I didn't want to get it from a dealer. I didn't want to get it from somebody else who didn't care. I wanted to grow it myself so that I knew what was going in it. I knew where it was coming from. I knew the source. And so I grew him lemon haze and made him oil. And that's what helped his mental health. So when it came to like bringing out my own CBD oils, and they said, we were talking about terpenes, so well, lemon haze has to be one of them, because what I saw the lemon haze do for him in the perking up and the motivation and the creativity and the energizing and how it changed his mental health, I thought I have to be able to give people this. And so yeah, I brought out a lemon haze as well, which I have been hearing a lot of very good reports. People are taking that in the morning, and it's getting rid of their brain fog. It's helping them get focused and motivated for the day. And then they take the purple punch at night time, and they